So for today's little build and wick, I'm just going to be using, actually, I got a couple of packs of these pre-built coils. The 6-in-1 coil pack from Geek Vape came in the mail over Christmas. And yep, I'm just going to try out their N80 Alien coils in a dual build. Getting here apparently a resistance of 0.18. So we have 3 strands of 28 gauge nichrome with a 32 gauge wrap. I've not used these Geek Vape Alien coils before, so I'm curious to see how they perform. So yeah, let's give them a go. So here we are, we have our 3mm inner diameter Alien from Geek Vape. And yeah. So it's really quite simple. You just kind of drop it in, and as you can see, the lead is already being forced down towards the other post as we speak. If I apply a little bit more pressure, it splays out the coil even more. Now, I don't want that coil to be too, like, really dead on close to those 2 blocks or posts. I will need a little bit of clearance so I can push. The intention in my case, I want to push both aliens towards the center. That way, I'm going to have more clearance when it comes to my wicking. I don't want my wicking to be falling, directly over the post, but rather a little bit more in the center. I can already begin to just place and position where I want them to be. Just line everything up, make sure that you've got more or less the position that you want. That could go out a tiny bit, but let's just see how we are with the next coil. As you can see, my leads are ready to be snipped, and thanks to this angle here, this kind of 45-degree angle, I can get in there really quite easily with my clippers and just take the edges off. Repeat the process on the other side and you're golden. You're good to go. And that's more or less what it looks like. Got a tiny bit of a height difference, but it's essentially, yeah, got our coils directly above our posts. So our top 4 holes are going to be hitting the coil directly. Our bottom 6 on both sides are going to be directed to the underside of the coil, and the pressure inside the chamber is going to force those from the underside up through that dual coil build and straight into the old cake hole. I think a very smart system, and for an RDA that's capable of quite complicated builds, very, very easy and simple to put together. Let's put this one on a regulated device or an ohm reader, give it a little bit of a comb and a strum, check for any shorts, and then we'll start wicking it. Alright, so we've put our fresh build on the Aegis mod, and we're getting a reading of 0.13. Let's just bring it up to 30, give it a little bit of a fire and a strum, and then we'll get this thing wicked. I am going to be using a piece of organic Japanese cotton from these pads, fairly standard. I don't find that they have always the best longevity, especially if you really put them through their paces. For the purpose of these Alien coils, I am going to use a roughly, just going to eyeball it, but about a 15mm wide strip per coil. At the moment, I'm going through a phase where I'm not really a big fan of huge amounts of combing out. Been watching this Norwegian dude, Morten Owen. Now, because I've positioned my coils as kind of centered as I can get away with on this build, that means that my wicks are going to fall basically within the space of these two posts on either side, thus blocking out that entire side of the area, which will, on the one hand, reduce turbulence, and on the other hand, improve flavor as well. I've been able to drip anywhere from 25 to 40 drops of e-liquid in this RDA without leaking. One of the reasons why leaking happens so rarely is because of the positioning of your airflow control and your airflow holes, as they're all positioned above the lip of the deck. There's no bottom airflow as such, not in the sense of a sort of classic Kennedy RDA, for example. But what can happen, I've noticed, is if you're using this on a mechanical and you purge the RDA before you take a drag, or you just do that out of habit, sometimes by purging it you will get a little bit of leakage out of those airflow holes. And that, people, is our built and wicked drop RDA with our two alien coils there from Geek Vape, cotton falling nicely to the side. As you can see, airflow is going to come through the sides there, and it's not going to have any chance to get out on either side just because of the nature of the wicking. So everything gets concentrated underneath those coils and then goes straight up. I'm definitely not going to list this as a con, but one thing that happens is that because this juice well is so deep, and because you're using these kind of lengths of cotton which run down the sides, you need to drip quite a lot at the beginning on a dry build like this. It's not a con. The more juice, the merrier. Give this a quick little fire at 40 watts. Yeah, it's going to need a bit more power. But yeah. And there we go. I think we're juiced up and just about ready to give this a first toke. Now, my personal preference has been for closing off the airflow about 40%, so closing off those top 4 holes. So here's our build, here's our mech, 0.18. Going to do this off camera.